Hello everyone. Today I'll take you through a fun and no-nonsense journey to the world of AI. From some guy scribbling the neuron equations back in 1940s to today's AI models that can write poems, fold proteins, even fold your laundry someday. No, we're not doing any hype here. No AI is going to destroy humanity kind of stuff. Just real practical stuff about what happened, what's happening, and what you should know. All right, let's jump in. All right, welcome to Time Capsule. So when I was thinking about how can I clearly explain the wild world of AI, I was thinking, the easy way to explain this stuff. So I came up with this time capsule application. Of course, I vibe coded this project with Cursor. I'm gonna add that video how I did that in the future, but let me quickly give you a tour of time capsule. So this is a home page where you can find all the stuff, but the magic begins here. When you click explore timeline, we will go to the space-time voyage. Basically, it has a lot of major incidents which happened in the journey of AI. We'll not go through all of this. This is a lot of stuff. And then again, each and every one of these topics deserve entire video. But what we'll do is we'll quickly go through some of the major incidents, occurrences that define today's AI models, and then we'll talk about them briefly and how they influence today's AI technology. So this is how it goes. Firstly, we're gonna talk about some of the major stuff which happened during 1940s to 1990s. And then we'll talk about some of the major incidents which revolutionized the deep learning during 2000s. And then we'll start talking about today's AI models, GPTs, Gemini 2.5 Pros, Groks, and all the fun stuff. All right, let's jump in. So it all happened back in 1943. Two scientists named Warden and Walter published a groundbreaking paper about neural networks. They wrote a paper about how neurons work in your brain and then how we can use the similar mechanism to solve complex problems. So that made a foundation for neural networks. And then in 1950s, Alan Turing dropped a banger called the Turing test, basically asking, can a machine chat so well that you can't tell it's not a human? If it can fool you, it's smart enough. So that's basically a Turing test. And that was one of the hottest topics during that time. And then fast forward to 1956, this is where all happened, the birth of artificial intelligence. It's basically the term artificial intelligence coined at this Dartmouth conference. Basically a group of scientists met together and then let's stimulate the human intelligence. No pressure, right? So that happened in 1956. So through 60s and 70s, we had some cool stuff. ELIZA is a bot system. It's a psychotherapy conversation bot system where humans can communicate in a natural language. And after that, at University of, I think, Stanford Research Institute, they invented a robot called the Shaky. They named it Shaky. It could think, it could detect in a simple way and move around the objects and all that cool stuff. So it's basically one of the major revolutions in the robotic industry. And then in 1972, people invented Mycin. Mycin is a medical diagnosis system where it can diagnose an infection and recommend the treatment. But it all got too hyped and then funding vanished. And then two AI winters happened. Like Game of Thrones, but with the grant money instead of dragons. Now let's talk about the big comeback. So by the 90s, AI moved from logical rules to learning from the data. Like how Indian parents grow from do this because I said so to do this because our neighbor's son did it and got 99 marks. Basically, in 2012, Alex, Ilya, and Jeffrey Hinton. So Jeffrey Hinton is known as godfather of AI and he's a professor in University of Toronto. And Ilya and Alex are the students of Jeffrey Hinton. So combinedly, they achieved breakthrough in the ImageNet large-scale visual recognition. Basically, it could detect objects inside the image. And the AlexNet was the first deep learning neural network which won the ImageNet competition. And then it kicked off the deep learning revolution inside the computer vision. All right, that's the AlexNet. Now let's continue to our deep learning advances. Basically, in 2017, some of the Google researchers published a paper called Attention is All You Need. So this introduced a transformer architecture. So basically, all AI models today, GPTs, Geminis, and Groks, they all develop based on the transformer architectures, which is based on the Attention is All You Need paper. So this made a foundation for today's large language models. In 2018, Google introduced BERT. So basically, BERT means bidirectional encoder representation from transformers. It's a breakthrough in natural language processing that revolutionized how AI systems understood and processed the human language. All right, we're almost there. Now let's go back to the bridge and talk about the big boys, the foundational models. So in 2020, GPT-3 got released. It's a massive model. It's 175 billion parameter model that could write, chat, and even code a bit. So people went surprised. It's like, wow, this thing is super cool. So in 2022, ChatGPT was released with GPT 3.5. So all of a sudden, AI was in your browser and everybody was started using it. Some people are writing poems, some people are writing stories and all that fun stuff. And cut back to 2023, GPT-4 released. It introduced multimodal capabilities. So it can take images, text, and then voice as input, and then answer your questions. So it was way better than 3.5, and we are seeing exponential growth in the AI industry. And then GPT-4 got released, and they even made it for free. So basically AI for all. So by this time, OpenAI was like single-handedly ruling the AI world, and then all other companies are still catching up. Google released Gemini, Anthropic released their Claude models, and Facebook released their Llama open source models. But OpenAI was still leading the AI race. And later in 2024, OpenAI released their open models, basically their thinking model. So thinking model means when you ask a question, instead of answering your question immediately, it thinks for a bit and then answer your question. Those are reasoning models, and they were much better than normal models. In 2025 January, DeepSeek R1 got released. It got so famous, it shook the US stock market. So basically, it is an open source reasoning model that rivals Owen tunes on your laptop. So it was cheap, fast, and as good as Owen at that time. So people started using it a lot. After that, Claude 3.7 Sonnet got spotlight. So it was super good at code generation. The companies like Cursor and Windsurf, they started using Claude 3.7 Sonnet as one of the main models to generate code. We'll talk more about code generation tools in a bit, but let's move forward. And then Meta Llama 4 got released, and it was not as good as other rivals at that time, so it didn't get much attention. Meanwhile, Google was killing it with Gemini 2.5 Pro. The model got super better, and then now people thought finally Google cracked the AI game. So it's very good at reasoning tasks, coding tasks, and it has huge context window compared to the other rivals like OpenAI and Llama models. Oh wait, so let's not talk about it. Apple is so behind the AI race. Maybe we'll talk about Apple intelligence in the future. So in July 2025, Grok 4 got released and it stole all the attention in the AI industry. So it scored around 15.9% in the ArcAGI benchmark. So basically, the Grok 4 rivals like O3 and Claude 4, they were at 10% and it scored 15.9%. And people are calling it's fluid intelligence. So basically, we are moving towards artificial general intelligence. Kimikedu got released in July 2025 as well. So it's 1 trillion parameter model, which is super good at coding related tasks, and people are talking about it everywhere. Well, that's all about foundation models. Honestly, the amount of models now is like biryani variations. Everybody have their own spicy version. All right, now let's talk about code generation tools. All right, so let's start talking about GitHub Copilot and Cursor. So all of these code generation tools uses foundation models like Claude, OpenAI GPTs, and open source models like Llama and DeepSeek. And then they have their own individual tools like tool for reading file, tool for writing code in your IDEs and all that stuff. So at this point, all of these coding agents have similar features. They have ask mode and agent mode. Ask mode is where you can ask questions about particular code file you're looking at. So agent mode is basically you ask a question, AI will generate code and then add it to that specific file or files, depends upon what you're doing, right? So most of these tools have similar functionality. All of them use foundation models and they have their own tools. So Cursor have their own tools to communicate with AI about how to read a file, write a file. Most of them have similar functionality, but they are specifically good depends upon how good their tools are. So Anthropic recently released something called Claude Code. So Claude Code is also a code generation tool, but the only difference is it runs in your terminal. Since it runs in your terminal, developers have more control over what AI is doing, how it is doing, and all that stuff. And you can basically do everything that you are doing in IDE. Claude is developing their own tools to communicate with Claude 4 models. That means they know how to write better tools and they know how a foundation model can use tools effectively because it's their own baby. I personally love Claude Code. I migrated from Cursor to Claude Code recently, and I would love to talk more about it maybe in a separate video. All right, that's about code generation tool. Now let's get back to our bridge and then talk about AI in healthcare. So we already talked about Mycin before. So let's talk about AlphaFold. So AlphaFold was introduced by Google's DeepMind. So it could able to detect the 3D protein structures from amino acids. I know it's a little bit technical, but it's basically helping the medical research moving faster. Basically, it's helping researchers to increase the velocity of drug discovery. Then come CRISPR. CRISPR is super cool. They basically figured out how you can edit genes precisely. So one of the things they're trying to figure out is how you can bring back extinct species like woolly mammoths. But yeah, you never know. We might see dragons and dinosaurs again. All right. So let's go back to the bridge and then talk about practical AI. So ChatGPT recently released something called ChatGPT Agent. So it's a combination of operator and deep research, which they released earlier this year. So it uses a computer browser, terminal, and then the Python code to complete some complex tasks. And their demo is super cool. I highly recommend you go and watch it. And then some of the major developments are happening in the media side. So basically, the text to video and image to video generation models are becoming super good at it, especially the VO3. Google released VO3 earlier this year. And then a lot of people are making these viral videos in YouTube and TikTok, and they're getting millions of views. People are actually liking them. And some of them are bringing back the ancient videos, how people lived centuries ago and all that. It's super fun to watch. And then also Netflix recently announced that they are using AI technologies inside one of their recent Netflix web series. All right, now let's quickly talk about AI in robotics. All right, we already talked about the Shaky the robot, but let's talk about some of the recent developments in the robotic industry. So Boston Dynamics, they are building robots. I think Hyundai already actively using them in their manufacturing plants. And then comes Figure 1. Figure 1 is a humanoid robot that can walk, grip objects, and even have basic conversations. We recently watched their demo. It looks super cool. Please watch it if you have time. All right, thank you so much for riding along with me through this wild AI journey. Honestly, there's so many cool things coming up. OpenAI and Gemini cracked IMO International Math Olympiad recently. They got gold, and GPT-5 is about to release this summer. And also Google is preparing to launch their new Gemini model. I'm looking forward to see what they can do and share with you guys. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in next one.